Hi guys, welcome to Litgyan. Let's discuss some MCQs on Matthew Arnold's literary criticism. The first question is Arnold's seminal essay, The Function of Criticism at the Present Time, begins with a paraphrase from A. Wordsworth, B. Edmund Burke, C. Thomas Gray, or D. John Bunyan. The answer is B. Edmund Burke, and this is the paraphrase. You can pause the video and read it. Given below are two statements. You have to choose the correct one in reference to function of criticism at the present time. First statement is, a false or malicious criticism may do much injury to the minds of others. A stupid invention, either in prose or verse, is quite harmless. The second statement says, the creative power is of lower rank than the critical. You have to choose the correct statement. Let's see the answer. It is C. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect because the critical power is of lower rank than the creative. It is undeniable that the exercise of a creative power, that a free creative activity, is the highest function of men. It is proved to be so by men's findings in it his true happiness. Moving on, while talking about creative and critical faculty, Arnold talks about three writers in his essay, Function of Criticism at Present Time. Identify. You can read the options. Let's see the answer. It is D. Goethe, Samuel Johnson, and Wordsworth. While talking about creative and critical faculty, Arnold talks about these three writers. Johnson had better gone on producing more inerrants instead of writing his lives of the poets. Wordsworth himself was better employed in making his ecclesiastical sonnets than when he made his celebrated preface so full of criticism. Goethe was one of the greatest of critics, and we may congratulate ourselves that he has left us so much of criticism. Moving on, according to Arnold, for a production of a great literary work, the power of men and the power of movement must conquer. And in order to explain this, he gives a comparison of two poets. Who are they? You can read the options. Let's see the answer. It is B. Byron and Goethe. You can read the explanation. I have quoted from the essay itself. What is the term given by Arnold for keeping aloof from the practical view of things in order to know the best that is known and thought in the world, and in its turn making this known to create a current of true and fresh ideas? Your options are A. Dissociation of sensibility, B. Touchstone, C. Association of sensibility, or D. Disinterestedness. The answer is D. Disinterestedness. The next question is, the theory of touchstone was introduced in which work of Matthew Arnold? A. Preface to the Poems of 1853, B. The Study of Poetry, C. On Translating Homer, or D. The Study of Celtic Literature. The answer is B. The Study of Poetry. Here is some explanation about touchstone. You can also get detailed explanation by clicking on the I button. Let's move on. Arnold, in which of his works, says that the field of science, religion, philosophy, and politics are full of charlatanism? A. The study of poetry, B. On translating Homer, C. The study of Celtic literature, or D. The function of criticism at present time. The answer is A. The study of poetry. The meaning of charlatanism is fake or pretentious knowledge, like knowledge full of pretension. So according to Arnold, only poetry is free of charlatanism. Rest other like religion, science, and philosophy are full of charlatanism. Let's see how. Religion fails to address fundamental questions facing men since its status is threatened by science. Science is charlatanism as it is being falsely presented as the new arbiter of knowledge, and philosophy is charlatanism as it is incapable of providing moral and spiritual sustenance to men since it itself is grappling with entrenched and unresolved questions and problems. Moving on, the next question is, Arnold, who was soon to lead a revolt against the Spasmodics, followed them unintentionally in which of his poems? A. Dover Beach, B. Tiresias, C. Empedocles on Etna, or D. The Scholar Gypsy. The answer is C. Empedocles on Etna. In this poem, the hero ends his life by jumping into the volcano Etna, does nothing but suffer, and suffering that finds no vent in action is not a fit subject for poetry according to Arnold. Tennyson followed the Spasmodics in Maud. Moving on, according to Arnold's The Study of Poetry, touchstones are proposed passages from, you can read the options. The answer is A. Homer, Dante, Shakespeare, and Milton. Two of his best known touchstones are A. Dante's Paradiso, B. Homer's Odyssey, C. Milton's Paradise Lost, or D. Shakespeare's Macbeth. You have to choose the correct combination. The answer is D 1 and 3, that is Dante's Paradiso and Milton's Paradise Lost. Let's see. Dante's In His Will is our piece from Paradiso's third part, and from Paradise Lost, it is the close of the description of the lost two series of a daughter Proserpine. The next question is, which poet, according to Arnold, lacks high seriousness and thus falls short of Arnold's classic designation? A. Geoffrey Chaucer, B. Philip Sidney, C. John Dryden, or D. Stephen Spender? The answer is A. Geoffrey Chaucer. Arnold compares Chaucer to French poets and finds him superior, yet rejects him as a classical poet, stating that he lacks high seriousness. Arnold is quoting whom when he says all art is dedicated to joy? Your options are A. Homer, B. Dante, C. Schiller, or D. Cervantes. The answer is C. Schiller. And according to his quote, like all art is dedicated to joy, even tragedy, which has suffering for its theme, is no exception to this. For the suffering in it is one from which men can derive enjoyment. Moving on, the next question is, which writer occurs to him as one, a name never to be mentioned without reverence? A. Homer, B. Dante, C. Milton, or D. Shakespeare? The answer is D. Shakespeare. Shakespeare, according to Arnold, chose excellent subjects, had no theory of choosing subjects of present import, finding his best in pastimes, knew well what constituted a poetical action. The next question is, Arnold did not consider whom as a safe model for Victorian poet? A. Robert Browning, B. William Blake, C. Ben Jonson, or D. Alexander Pope? The answer is C. Ben Jonson. Let's see why. According to Arnold, Ben Jonson is unable to say a thing plainly even when the press of the action demands the very directest language. The next question is, Arnold considered whom the grand master of the grand style? A. Dante, B. Homer, C. Shakespeare, or D. Milton? The answer is B. Homer. Which is the debut work of Arnold as a critic? The Study of Poetry, On Translating Homer, The Study of Celtic Literature, or Preface to the Poems of 1853? The answer is D. Preface to the Poems of 1853. The next question is, which of the following does not belong to the Spasmodics? A. P.J. Bailey, B. Sidney Dubell, C. Matthew Arnold, or D. Alexander Smith? If you remember from one of the previous questions, you must be knowing the answer. It is C. Matthew Arnold. Let's see who the Spasmodics were. The Spasmodic poets were a group of British poets of the Victorian era. The term was coined by William Edmonston Ayton with some derogatory as well as humorous intention. The epithet itself is attributed by Thomas Carlyle to Lord Byron. The term Spasmodic was also applied by contemporary reviewers to Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem Aurora, Tennyson's Maud, Longfellow's Golden Legend, and the poetry of Arthur Hugh Clough. Moving on, the next question is, which of the following is not a criterion of great poetry according to Arnold? It gives joy even when the situation is painful. It creates its action rather than thought. It pleases as a whole and not merely in parts. Its highest models are the ancient classics. You have to choose the correct combination. The answer is D, none of the above, signifying all the options are correct. So we have reached the end of this video. That is it for today. You can leave your feedback or suggestion in the comment section below. Till then, happy learning.